Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we are diving headfirst into a genuine 16th century mathematical marvel. We're talking about the Enochian system. So I want you to just forget everything you think you know about Renaissance magic, because what we're actually looking at today is a highly sophisticated interlocking cryptographic engine. It's an intricate system of angelic maps and grid secrets that are, frankly, genuinely mind-bending. Let's jump right into this visually overwhelming grid. This is known as the Great Table. It's essentially an esoteric coordinate system created back in the 1580s by Dr. John Dee, who, by the way, was Queen Elizabeth I's court astrologer, and his scryer, a man named Edward Kelly. Now, at first glance, I know, it just looks like an incomprehensible wall of letters. But as you'll see, every single character in there serves a very distinct mathematical and geographical purpose. Here is our decryption key for today. We'll start with the 16th century cosmic cipher, move into the anatomy of the Great Table, then explore cryptography and hidden patterns, angelic maps of Earth, and finally wrap up with communicating across time. Okay, let's get into Section 1, the 16th century cosmic cipher, a mathematical marvel. It's absolutely crucial to understand that Dee and Kelly weren't just, scribbling down spooky occult symbols or randomly tossing letters onto a page. Not at all. They were systematically building a highly sophisticated visual database. They engineered this interlocking cryptographic engine to act as a complete cosmic map, one that charted out the entire hierarchy of both the earthly and spiritual realms. They were effectively trying to code the universe itself. Moving right along to Section 2, Anatomy of the Great Table, breaking down the blueprint. Structurally, this whole table is broken down into 4 distinct quadrants, which they called watchtowers. Think of it like a giant puzzle. Each of these functions as a localized coordinate system mapped directly to a classical element and a cardinal direction. So the top left yellow grid corresponds to air and the east, the top right blue grid is water in the west, the bottom left black or green grid is earth and the north, and finally, the bottom right red grid represents fire and the south. But what holds it all together? Well, that would be the Tablet of Union. Right in the middle, there's a central black cross dividing those 4 elemental domains. That cross is actually its own mini-grid. It contains specific bridging letters like EXARP, H-Coma, Nanta, and BTOM. This Tablet of Union acts as a sort of chemical bond. It's the vital mortar that mathematically locks these 4 separate elemental quadrants together into one beautifully unified system. Which brings us to Section 3, Cryptography and Hidden Patterns, Unlocking the Mechanics. Now, here's where it gets really wild. Notice the strict mirror symmetry built right into that central cross of the Great Table. If you look at the horizontal black bar running left to right, the letters on the far left spell out MOTIB. But look at the exact opposite side, over on the far right, and it spells BITOM. It is a perfect linguistic mirror reflection centered around the vertical axis. That shows us an incredibly deliberate, mathematically balanced design. And it doesn't stop there. The entire system is governed by this strict geometric obsession with the number 7. Literally everything in the system loops back to 7. You have horizontal rows on the grid that extract exactly 7-letter names for planetary angels. You have the central circular seal, the Sigillum Dei Emeth, which is entirely built upon recursive 7-pointed stars and 7-sided polygons. It's just an absolute masterclass in heptagonal math. When you first look at the raw grid of Latin letters, it might seem completely chaotic. But actually, scratch that, it's not random at all. Even the capitalization is intentional. If you trace a path connecting only the capital letters using a knight's tour, moving like a knight in a game of chess, you extract hidden names. And when you draw lines between specific coordinates, you reveal precise maze-like geometric sigils. The letters are literally physical coordinates for drawing geometric keys. Let's see how they applied this in Section 4, Angelic Maps of Earth, the 16th century GPS. So, Dee and Kelly practiced something they called angelical geography. And wow, is this an incredibly detailed system. They layered 30 mystical realms, kind of think of them like concentric layers of the atmosphere, which they called aethers, right over the physical globe. This mapped out 91 actual 16th century regions of the Earth. By doing this, they believed they were identifying specific angelic protectors, known as governors, who were assigned to defend every single territory on the planet. To find the specific angelic defender for any place on Earth, you don't just guess. No, you use a super clear, logical, 3-step decryption pipeline.
First, you translate the modern location into its historical 16th century geographic name. Second, you locate which of the 30 ethers that region actually falls under. And third, you trace the specific letters of the ruling angel's name directly on the Great Table to reveal their geometric sigil.
Let's actually put this into practice with an amazing example straight out of the system's own rules. Say we run modern-day Topeka, Kansas through the 16th century algorithm. Here is exactly what happens. Back in the 1580s, the unexplored American Midwest fell under the regional designation of Virginia, or Norumbega. This particular zone is governed by the 16th Aether, named LEEA, and occupies the 47th Earthly Division. Tracing this on the Great Table reveals that the defending angel for Topeka, Kansas is named Lavacan. I mean, it is absolutely wild to think that this intricate 16th century occult grid spits out a highly specific guardian for modern-day Kansas. But, this begs a really fascinating question. Once Dee and Kelly mapped all this out and decrypted these specific names, how did they actually communicate with them? What was their user interface? The answer is a practice called scrying. They weren't just staring at a piece of parchment. They would place a black obsidian mirror or sometimes a crystal right upon the holy table. By aligning their physical direction with the watchtowers, vibrating the Enochian keys vocally, and tracing those geometric sigils we talked about, they essentially used the grid as a two-way radio. They were basically turning the scrying mirror into a monitor connected to a cosmic web. It's kind of like a Renaissance version of dialing into the internet. And that leads us to our final mind-bending secret in Section 5, communicating across time, the cosmic clock. Because what if this meticulously crafted map isn't just plotting spatial coordinates? What if it's not just a map of the Earth at all, but is actually tracking the flow of time itself? According to the mechanics of the grid, if you shift coordinates across these cells, say you move a column to the left or shift a row up, the letters completely realign. It's like turning the gears of a machine. The system stops behaving like a static map of geography and starts operating literally like an intricate timeline matrix. It becomes an astronomical clock used to calculate past historical shifts and even forecast future events for specific territories. These vividly colored watchtowers were ultimately designed to visualize and navigate the pressures of the past, present, and future through competing elemental forces. So rather than a static universe, the grid reveals an engine of constant friction. Air, water, earth, and fire are constantly shifting, with the angelic governors aggressively pushing the specific nature of their territories to actively shape human history. Which leaves us with this final provocative thought to chew on. When we look at the immense symmetry, the recursive math, and the incredibly complex geographic mapping of this whole system, did these Elizabethan mapmakers just invent an astonishing, unparalleled mathematical fiction purely out of thin air? Or did they actually crack the code to a universal grid? It's an incredible puzzle. I really hope this explainer helps you decode a piece of it today. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you on the next one.